It's nice to see everybody. So for our didactic today, we're going to talk about our own resiliency and the resiliency of other providers and workers in the system, because that's an important thing too. And so I'm going to focus on these things called resiliency networks, where we gather together. In a way, this is actually a resiliency network because we get together and talk about things that work, but we're really focused on customers, clients, members, however you refer to them. And today we're going to focus on the flip side, the workforce side, because, and let me, there we go. We are all experiencing collective trauma, whether you know it or not, whether you buy into it, if you would, or not. There's a lot of trauma out there, and we brush against it personally and professionally, and it does impact us. And so this is an expanded ACE study slide that starts in the center with adverse childhood experiences. And add some other ACEs. Up at the top, it's adverse climate experiences. And we're seeing all sorts of things. And even here in the Midwest, and where we're kind of cushioned from some of the climate experiences, when we get those rainstorms now that are like just so fast, and they're like flood-like, they pound down on us and things. The weather is increasingly turbulent, whatever your thoughts are about that climate change stuff. Underneath the adverse childhood experiences are adverse community experiences, and they include all the things that are written on the roots here, like poverty and violence, lack of opportunities, things like that. And then finally, atrocious cultural experiences that goes back to genocide of the native and indigenous peoples of the world, slavery for African Americans, really all over the world, all sorts of things, including what we see in the cases that we look at, forced family separation or harmful social norms. So we are all experiencing this stuff, and it impacts us. So when we have a lot of stress, anxiety, or burnout, these sorts of, there we go. Stress, anxiety, burnout, depression. When we have this kind of ongoing stress, it really does impact our brain and how it functions. And one of the things that lots of stress does, and I'm betting that every one of us feels some stress at work, feels some stress at home, feels some stress in the world. The problem underneath it all is inflammation. And inflammation is difficult because inflammation really makes everything worse in our body, in our immune system, in our cardiovascular system, just all over the place. And we risk toxic stress overload. And the reason we're at risk for it is because not only do we see the trauma of the world and experience some of it ourselves, through all of our clients and all of our exposure to other people's stress and trauma, that is called secondary traumatic stress, and it also impacts us. And so the deck is a little bit stacked against us, if you will. And I just want you to keep that in mind as we go forward, because you too are an important person in this mix. Lucky for all of us, this woman at the top center of the screen is Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris. And she was able to identify the 6 core areas that address the biology of toxic stress. So we want to watch out for that toxic stress and avoid it. And she came up with the things that will really help to combat that, if you would. So let's pull those up on here. Get enough sleep, move your body, eat well, be mindful, take care of your own mental health, have healthy relationships that support you. And now we want to talk about what else can we do? So I could look at this. I honestly could spend all day on this particular slide and all the things that we could do around this, but they really are important for you to pay attention for yourself, as well as encourage the youth and families that you work with. But besides those 6 things that Nadine came up with, and she's pretty well known and has a TED Talk if you're interested, what else can we do? So, self-care. It isn't just about relaxing and sunbathing. Self-care should also strengthen us, focus us, calm us when needed, and all the connections. All of our connections should also support and help us in terms of reducing stress. I can remember inviting people over for dinner after work sometimes, and I'd go home from work thinking, why did I do that? I'm exhausted, and do I really want to have to do this? And I'm a little grumpy about it. But half an hour into chopping vegetables and people stopping in and getting ready to partake of a meal together, I'm happy, happy, happy. And it's the connections that really can support us. Oops, I didn't mean that. One more thing on here I want to mention is you're all helpers. We're all helpers. We're in the fields of helping people. And when we help other people, that too makes us feel good, gives us a little shot of dopamine, and the people that we're working with appreciate us when we're helping them as well. And so being helpers actually comes with its own sort of reward system, but it's not sufficient. You would still need to practice some other things to take care of yourself if you really want to be strong and resilient through all of this. So, as professional caregivers, we spend our time supporting and helping others. But how do we address the pain and the loss in our own lives and in the lives of people we're working with and caring for? And the way to do that, one of the ways to do that is, of course, to lean into self-care, but also to think about resiliency networks. So resiliency networks are designed to provide safe and brave space that we need to heal together in little communities. We can share our experiences, sample a wide variety of strategies to increase our resiliency, and they're great places to look forward to. Oh, I know I'm going to this thing and I'll be able to ask this question or share this thing that happened. I'm going to go around real quick this slide. Resiliency networks can happen on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, or as needed. They could be provided inside your own agency, or it could be more community oriented, or it could be across the state. So for instance, through our Center for Innovative Practices, we are offering a resiliency network for all providers, and it will be once a month, starting next month. So, and it's a 1-hour drop-in session, and it might give you some ideas of how you can have resiliency groups or networks in your area. It's a place where you know that people are available to you, and you might have some dependable people who attend regularly, and they're very likely to be responsive in a way that is supportive and understanding and helpful. You might also think about a resiliency network, could go in 2 different directions, have a very diverse crowd in your network or a very similar crowd. So for instance, you could have a resiliency network for all of the care coordinators at your organization. So that's going to be a similar group, right? They're all doing the same kind of job. They're all coming up with the same kind of ideas or issues that you're working on with the clients, that sort of thing. On the other hand, the one that we're going to offer online through iTacit, our learning platform, that'll be very diverse. We'll have all sorts of workers at all levels of education and all levels of working with families and youth. So it's really about what is the perceived quality of support by you, and do you find it helpful? And so just to give you a little preview of it, resiliency networks often include a bit of guided meditation practice, a little information like this, and a little didactic information on current neuroscience about stress and resiliency, maybe some opportunities for personal connection, sharing resources with each other, and doing some body practices that might include yoga, stretching, those sorts of things. The idea is that we would work together to soothe our nervous systems through connection with other calm nervous systems. Attendees should be invited to participate at their own comfort level. Nobody is ever forced to or even encouraged to do something that they're not comfortable with. But everyone who attends should leave with a renewed sense of connection, compassion, and calmness. What else can we do? Another thing that's important for our sanity and our resilience is living in alignment with our core values. So our core values our core values are the response in our own heads when we think about who am I and how do I interact with the world and what's important to me. So here's a little list of core values that I find personally to be very aligned with me and my world. But you don't have to have these, not a single one of them. You may have your own. Lots of people see education as a core value. Other people might put family togetherness as a core value. So I want you to think for just a moment about the values that you relate to and who taught you those values and how did you adopt them and utilize them in your own life. And then I was behind the icebreaker today. So remember your inspiration icebreaker about who inspired you. That's another thing that can sort of relieve some of the stress when we think about people who are inspiring and people who keep going even though they're tough. And the thing I want to wrap up with here is, what are the chances that you have inspired somebody else? I want you to think about that because the chances are incredibly high. You're helpers in the world. You're out there doing your best. And you are probably an inspiration to other people. And I hope that you don't find that to be pressure, but motivation to keep on doing the things that you do that are helpful to the people we work with and to the world in general. Remember that being in community is important. It's not important what any individual little community is, but it is a place where you are seen for who you are and for exactly how you are in the world so that you can feel that connection and belonging. And that wraps up our didactic for today.